Have you ever been judged? Have you ever walked into a room and felt like you didn't belong? Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt that what you saw on the outside didn't reflect the beauty and complexity of who you are on the inside? Or worse, have you ever felt ugly, unwanted, like a mistake? I ask this because the first time I saw this creature, I judged it. I judged it harshly. I was scanning the bottom of a murky pond with my camera, looking for something beautiful. Instead, I found this, a monster. There is no other word for it. Look at it. It is drab, colored like the mud it hides in. It has a flat, alien head, huge, soulless black eyes, and a jaw that shoots out to snatch prey like something from a nightmare. It moves with a heavy, clumsy waddle. It is covered in algae and silt. It looks like a creature made of dirt, living in dirt. To be honest, I almost turned my camera off. I thought, no one wants to see this. This isn't inspiring. This is just ugly. But I was wrong. I was so wrong. I didn't know it then, but I was looking at one of nature's greatest deceptions. I was looking at a king disguised as a beggar. For months, this creature, the dragonfly nymph, lives a life of absolute solitude in the cold, dark water. It is a predator, yes, but it is also a prisoner of the pond. It breathes through gills in its rectum. It crawls through rotting vegetation. It lives in a world of shadows, constantly hiding from fish that would eat it in a heartbeat. I watched it sit motionless for hours, blending into the dead leaves. It looked lonely. It looked like it was waiting for something, but it didn't know what. It reminded me of the ugly duckling phase in our own lives. We all have it. Maybe it was your teenage years when you felt awkward in your own skin. Maybe it's right now where you are working a job that feels beneath you or living in a place that doesn't feel like home. You feel covered in mud. You feel like the world only sees your rough edges, your mistakes, your lack of polish. You scream silently, "This isn't who I really am," but the water is too murky for anyone to hear you. This creature spent 2 years in that mud, 2 years of being ugly, 2 years of surviving in the dark. And then one morning, everything changed. The nymph stopped eating. It started to pace back and forth, restless. The water, which had been its home for its entire life, suddenly felt suffocating. It felt a pull, a magnetic call towards the surface. This is a terrifying moment. To leave the water means to enter a world it knows nothing about. It means entering a world where it cannot breathe, where gravity is heavier, where the sun burns. But the instinct to rise was stronger than the fear of the unknown. I watched it find a tall green reed stem. It reached out with those hooked claws and began to climb. Up, up, out of the safety of the dark, breaking the surface of the water. It climbed until it was high above the pond, exposed to the dry air, and then it stopped. It dug its claws in deep, and it waited. The sun began to dry its muddy skin. The skin turned gray and brittle. It looked like a corpse. If you walked past it at this moment, you would think it was dead. But inside, the magic was happening. The pressure was building. The creature inside had outgrown its prison. Then, the back of its neck split open. This is the part that always makes me hold my breath. It doesn't look like birth. It looks like an exorcism. It looks painful. The creature has to arch its back backward, pulling itself out of its own skin. First, the thorax emerges. It is a pale, glowing green, such a stark contrast to the brown mud of the shell. Then the head pulls free, and finally, the legs. Those legs, they are white, soft, and useless. They dangle helplessly. The creature is now hanging upside down, suspended by nothing but the grip of its old skin. It is completely vulnerable. A gust of wind could knock it down. A bird could snatch it. It has no armor, it has no weapons. It hangs there, exhausted, surrendering to gravity. It reminded me that sometimes, to change, we have to become incredibly soft. We have to drop our defenses. We have to let go of the hard, cynical shell we built to protect ourselves from the world. We have to be willing to be naked and vulnerable before we can become strong again. After a few minutes of resting, the creature does a sit-up. It swings its body up and grabs the reed with its new legs. It pulls the rest of its long abdomen out of the shell. And there it sits, next to the ghost of its past. On the left, you have the empty shell, brown, ugly, monstrous, staring blankly with hollow eyes. On the right, you have the new creature, shimmering, jade green, sleek, and elegant. It is hard to believe they are the same being. One is earth, the other is air. One is the past, the other is the future. But the transformation isn't done. Look at its back. There are 4 tiny, crumpled pads. These are the wings. Fluid from the body begins to pump into them. Slowly, majestically, they begin to expand. They unfurl like sails catching the wind. They grow longer, thinner, and more transparent. As the sun hits them, they begin to sparkle. They look like stained glass. They look like diamonds. I zoomed in as close as my lens would allow. The intricate network of veins in those wings is a masterpiece of engineering. It is perfection. I thought back to my first impression. I thought back to how I called it a monster. I felt ashamed. I had judged a book by its cover, but I had only seen the dust jacket. I hadn't read the story. This creature wasn't ugly. It was simply unfinished. The mud, the dark water, the frightening jaw, they were all just a disguise. They were the protective wrapper for the jewel inside. Finally, the wings hardened. The dragonfly vibrated them, a high-speed hum that sounded like a tiny electric motor, and then, in a blur of motion, it vanished. I looked up and saw it hovering 20 feet in the air. It wasn't just flying, it was mastering the air. It moved with a precision that makes our best helicopters look clumsy. It could hover, fly backward, and dive at 30 miles per hour. It was the ace of the sky. It spent its life crawling in the mud so that it could spend its future dancing in the clouds. Watching it hunt mosquitoes in the golden light of the sunset, I realized something profound about potential. We are so quick to judge ourselves. We look at our current situation, our messy apartments, our unfinished projects, our failures, our mud, and we think, this is who I am. I am a mess. I am a failure. But you are not the mud. You are not the shell. You are the thing inside the shell. You are the potential that is waiting to break out. The ugly phases of life are not a mistake. They are the incubation period. They are necessary. You cannot have the diamond without the pressure. You cannot have the dragonfly without the nymph. So if you feel like a monster right now, if you feel like you are hiding in the dark, unappreciated and unseen, do not lose hope, and do not believe the mirror. The mirror only shows you the shell. It doesn't show you the wings that are forming underneath. Your time in the water is almost over. The reed is waiting, the sun is waiting. You are going to be a masterpiece.